Ben Simmons is an enigma that continues to baffle fans and confuse commentators, but his value might have stood its ground as he looks set to link up with the Lakers to become a contender and hopefully learn to shoot. Before we get into the video, if you want to win a PS5 with NBA 2K21 and Madden NFL 21 included, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and turn on notifications to enter the giveaway. In what world does Ben Simmons deserve to go on a championship-caliber team? The first overall draft pick of 2016 has been considered by most as a disappointment despite his 3 NBA All-Star appearances, most notably not fixing his jump shot, which has failed him time and time again. His character was questioned by many prior to the draft, and this story has continued throughout his career. Commentators have argued that he doesn't have a good work ethic, while players talk about his unfriendly personality in the locker room. But who needs to be friendly when you're winning, right? Well, this is the problem. He's not winning. He's losing. And not just collectively, but individually. Fans have been frustrated by the lack of adaptability in his game since he entered the league. The stats don't favor him either. In the regular season, he had a reasonable 14.3 points, 7.2 rebounds, and 6.9 assists per game. But come playoff time, his scoring dropped, most notably averaging 9.9 points in a devastating defeat against the Hawks. As of right now, it's fair to say the guy can't shoot. His free throw percentage in the 2021 playoffs sat at a frightening 34.2%, missing 45 free throws in the 2021 playoffs. How can a player chalk up 42 points and 12 assists against this season's Utah Jazz, but in the postseason score a pathetic 4 points in a Game 2 versus the Hawks? But is it the expectations that we place on the young star which cause such a heated reaction? Coming out of college, Simmons was dubbed as the new LeBron James and listed as the #1 player in the nation in 2015. That's a heavy load to carry for any young player. He was also entering a franchise on the rebuild as the 76ers had finished near the bottom of the NBA for a number of seasons. Lest we forget that just 2 years after the draft, with additions of Joel Embiid and Jimmy Butler, the expectations of Philadelphia had grown to that of a championship-winning side. Narrowly going out to the Toronto Raptors in the second round was only due to an astonishing Game 7 winner we know now as The Shot by Kawhi Leonard. Other than that, could the 76ers have gone all the way? After all, Jimmy Butler did it with a lot less help 1 year later in Miami. So maybe the blame shouldn't be placed solely on Simmons' door. Moreover, it's pointless speaking on Ben's championship potential when he's not even been playing as the #1 guy in Philadelphia. Instead, huge emphasis has been placed on Joel Embiid, a center who doesn't seem to work well with Simmons. Ben's game has been consistently tinkered with in order to play well with others. As far back as the 2018-19 season, the 76ers initially started with Simmons taking the initiative as the guy with the ball, but eventually they elected that Butler take ownership in the postseason. Butler sympathized with his teammate on JJ Redick's podcast, saying, "The entire year Ben had the ball. So you mean to tell me that in one playoff series you just switch it up like that? I would be like he is. I would feel that type of way." Butler also spoke of the troubles he had with coach Brett Brown and the lack of offensive organization. So it's clear that this could have stunted Ben Simmons' development. Coaching is important, particularly for a young prospect with such huge promise that's new to the NBA. Take one look at Eric Spoelstra's development of Tyler Hero last year, or pretty much any player who plays under Greg Popovich as good examples. Doc Rivers certainly made a difference this season, but many could argue that Doc's recent 3-1 lead losses were a product of his coaching mistakes rather than player performances. So while we beat up on Ben, it's important to note that he's only turning 25 this summer, and there's still plenty of room for improvement. Just because commentators aren't patient doesn't mean we shouldn't be. Lonzo Ball couldn't shoot, but he managed to swing the stats back in his favor, seemingly becoming an asset to the Pelicans, and might even end up finding his way back to the Lakers. But Ben's the target, and it could be a shrewd acquisition in hauling a player who will likely benefit from the mentorship of LeBron James. As quoted from Stephen A. Smith, "He's a jump shot away from being LeBron. Then why not send him to LeBron? It's good for both of them, right? LeBron gets defense, and Simmons gets experience, or maybe even that coveted jump shot. So why the Lakers over anyone else? You've got to imagine that his representation with an agency co-founded by LeBron James has got something to do with it. Simmons signed with Clutch Sports straight out of college, and there's no question that it will make his transition easier, particularly when it comes to business. Look no further than Anthony Davis and Montrezl Harrell, who now both wear purple and gold after signing for Clutch back in 2018 and 2019 respectively. Both will deny that it's a deciding factor, but it's definitely a key component. What's more, reports have come flooding through the grapevine that Simmons recently purchased a huge house in the Santa Monica Mountains region of Los Angeles County. Apparently, the mansion carried a whopping $17.5 million price tag. A steep investment if he's just looking for a holiday home on his off weeks from Philly. Coincidence? Not if you're as close to LeBron as Simmons claims to be. He's said in the past how he has a lot of respect for LeBron, and vice versa. Executives around the league right now have shown a keen interest in Simmons, according to some commentators, and still reference his insane athleticism similar to that of LeBron. But if there's that much interest, then the Sixers surely have the power when it comes to negotiations. Well, not necessarily. While teams still rate Simmons and even argue he can still develop into a superstar, they are clearly aware of Philly's desperation to fix their obvious issue, the non-duo. Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons just don't fit. It's been tried and tested, but it never seems sustainable. Embiid is at his most productive backing up to the basket, which leaves Ben Simmons in no man's land. If the ball pops out to him, he sure as hell ain't shooting it. Their games are just very, very different. A stat line from their hype 2019 season shockingly showed that their plus-minus was far better separated than together. Then the switch of coaching in 2020 showed Doc Rivers helping change the narrative by finishing top of the Eastern Conference. In a May 2021 interview, he leaned into this saying, "I knew Ben and Joel can play together. Everything I heard coming in there was that they couldn't. And I kept saying I don't understand that." A month later, and this Philly house of cards came tumbling down quicker than a New York Knicks fan hype train. Simmons' inconsistency and poor performances in the Hawks series led to Embiid calling out his poor free throw attempts after a crushing Game 7 loss. The call-out only helped reinforce the constant rumors that the pair also don't like each other off the court. There's only one thing that fixes poor personal relationships in sports: winning, which unfortunately appears to be the opposite of what these two are capable of together when push comes to shove in the playoffs. Simmons has become a problem for the Sixers. He's costing too much money to be adding so few points to the floor as a point guard. The front office has done their best by adding new players and a new coach, but to no avail. Let's be honest, Simmons doesn't appear to be enjoying his time out east. His press conferences are short, sharp, and cold, win or lose. Fans have slowly turned their back on what should have been their most prized possession. Philly fans are now at a standstill with an underperforming player and not a lot of room to operate in the market. Hayward from the Hornets has been floated as one trade option, but trading one underperforming player for an injury-prone one isn't always good business. Reports have shown the Pacers' interest in listing Malcolm Brogdon as a possible target, but what sort of a trade is that for Philly? Would the Jazz give up Mike Conley or the Rockets' John Wall? All of these are as incredibly underwhelming to us as they likely are for everyone else, which is why we don't think they'll happen. Right now, the trade scenario being floated involves veteran point guard Kyle Lowry. We've spoken about his potential move to the Lakers, but there's also an argument that he could head back to his hometown of Philadelphia. So how does this work? Simple. The Toronto Raptors acquire Dennis Schroeder and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, while the Lakers would get Simmons and George Hill. This leaves the Sixers, who end up with Kyle Lowry and Montrezl Harrell. On paper, that looks like a win-win for everyone, right? Schroeder would benefit from some much-needed development being offered confidence by newer coach Nick Nurse, and KCP would add another touch of class to the Raptors. Harrell can reinvent himself as a reinvigorated big at the Sixers, playing to a crowd that will embrace his tough persona and strong work ethic, while Lowry gets to go and play out his career with his beloved home team. George Hill has wandered enough recently to realize it's all part of the gig, having been through 6 teams in 5 years, mostly used as a trade piece. This opens the door for Simmons to travel to LA in search of that playoff run with less pressure and much-needed nurture under the long arm of LeBron. The bookies have already slashed odds on Simmons being traded, and the Lakers currently sit top of the pile in terms of destinations. Now don't get us wrong, the Lakers are always the favorites when it comes to trade terminals. But where there's smoke, there's fire, and as smart detectives always say, the solution to the case is commonly the most obvious one. The usual suspects have pulled yet another heist, this time a prize who's going to develop into quite an asset, something many of us have disregarded as of late. Comment below to let us know your thoughts, and be sure to subscribe for more. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss another one of our videos. We'll see you next time, latest Hoops fans. Until then, keep shooting your shot!